In 1933, several strips started on the Sunday pages in the newspapers. They had Wild Western narratives, adventures of cowboys and such. Amongst them was White Boy in Skull Valley, a strip drawn and written by one Garrett and reprinted in this beautiful, huge, oversized hardcover by Sunday Press, the same guys that have reprinted Walton Skisik's Gasoline Alley, these strips, which this book is very recommended as well. This book here in itself is a beauty and a piece of art. One of the most beautiful panels on the back here, with this very colorful sky. And one of the most original features is the spine, which is, you see just the cloth here, which gives the whole thing more handmade feel and allows you to open this book here on each and every page in the book, 100% flat, which is great. And the horizontal format here is, of course, fitting to the original way these strips were published. The way this book is designed is just breathtaking. From the very first page to the last, it's astonishing. You get a lot of bonus content and insights into the life and times of Garrett Price, and here you see him in action. Despite putting a lot of time and effort and energy into his comic strips, Garrett Price never thought very highly of his comics, or that these were amongst the most important stuff he ever created. Well, he was an artist who worked as a cover illustrator for the New Yorker, and I think these illustrations were way more prominent way back then than his comics. So, and better paid, I assume. So unfortunately, he had a lot of reasons to quit comics after this comic here. So, but now to our White Boy, the comic here that started in on October 1st, 1933. A white boy is taken captive by these Native Americans, and in a way the whole story is told through their eyes, through the eyes of the Native Americans. So the whole perspective is changed or turned around 180 degrees. His most outstanding feature for them is, of course, his pale skin. Not to diminish him or to make him lesser than they are, but just to describe him. And the whole story is taking a stand against racism, but not in the way that you point fingers at somebody or tell them, hey, Native Americans are as worthy as white people or black people or whatever, but just by telling us a story. I mean, there are a lot of stuff here in it because the series is from the 30s. That is, by our today's highly standards, maybe even not political correct anymore. But in this case, really, I absolutely don't care. It's just a nice coming-of-age story. He lives amongst the Indians. A tender love story develops between him and Starlight, this native girl here. And it's fantastically drawn, as you can see here. And I will just walk you through some pages and tell you what I liked about them. For an example, when you look at this Sunday page from October 29 in 1933, you see that Garrett Price not only was inspired by native petroglyphs, but just did a downright homage to them, used them here as a model for a template for his panel. And please tell me whenever you have seen more beautiful skies in comic strips or wherever. Garrett Price's strips in general made such a good use of the Band-Aid dot coloring that it's really astonishing. And these reprints are beautiful on this muddy newspaperish paper. So they shimmer in their vibrant but not too vibrant glory. Yeah, beautiful, 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 beautiful. And but he experiments a lot, Garrett Price experiments a lot with storytelling techniques, and here we have a serial sequence, which is, of course, at the same time a homage to Nemo in Wonderland, in Slumberland. And Price changes the size of the panels when he wants to work more details into them, and wants to give us more the feeling to be out there in the wild. And one thing that I really do like as well is how these logos always change and are really nice in terms of abstract compositions. Nice little artworks at the side of the real comic strip. The narration is a coming-of-age story, but told real charming and mute and silent in a way. Not with big events, not with big war scenes between Indian tribes or stuff like that. More or less little adventures, day-to-day adventures in a way. And how our white boy and Starlight come closer a bit each day. So, and but he could use black very effectively as well, as you can see here. The strips appeared in most newspapers in this horizontal format, but sometimes they had to rearrange them and even redraw a bit. Here the third panel was redrawn so that they could fit this vertical page for other newspapers, and this is just an inlay they put into this book here just to show us the aforementioned fact, which I think is very thoughtful and nice little touch and detail that you don't get from each and every publisher, unfortunately. Here's another proof to the fact how nicely and tender and charming this strip here actually was and is. And I do like the first panel over here, how the birches, the trees, give a bit of rhythm to this long horizontal panel there. And though we experience the whole story here through the eyes of the Native Americans, there are some exceptions to the rule. So each year, of course, the Sunday pages have to tackle, in one way or another, the Christmas theme. So this is the Sunday from December 23, 1934, where our white boy here tells his friends about Christmas. And we see how this Christmas unfolds in the head of Woodchuck, his friend here. He thinks of the Santa Claus as a big medicine man smoking a mighty pipe of peace. And here you can see them dancing around the Christmas trees in the snow. But we get, of course, some nice Indian folk tales as well, like this one here, about the snowshoe rabbit, how he comes to be brown in the summer and white in the winter. Just like this panel here a lot. 3 kids. This was the last Sunday page called White Boy in April 21 of 1935. Because 1 week later, Garrett Price not only changed the title to White Boy in Skull Valley, but more important, he changed the narration completely, and our character is suddenly given a name. He is now Bob White, and he's not amongst Native Americans anymore, but is some kind of true blue, hence the color of his shirt, law enforcer, some kind of goody two-shoes and detective in the Wild West. There's a lot of fun to it, but the charm of the first series, the first arc, is never achieved anymore after that. Even though this is fun, really, because this is the evildoer here, a guy called Slade. And this is, of course, nothing less than a self-portrait of Garrett Price here. There's some later page. It's even more fun, I think, because here the 2 ladies, they drive their car, not aware that he's the bad guy. He's on the back seat of their car, and they listen to the radio. When last seen, war-torn black and red sweater, was unshaven, had small black moustache and glasses. So they look into the mirror like Garrett Price, I think, looked then in the mirror and pretended to be the bad guy and drew himself there. Even though White Boy in Skull Valley never reaches anymore the charm of the original White Boy series or arc, it has for sure a lot of appeal. Look, for an instance, at these panels here, with their very strong use of black. And this reminds me very much of Francesco Francavilla, especially in combination with these strong colors. But as you can see here, he experiments a lot with side strips, funny strips, maybe to do some experimenting in doing comics. Maybe he wasn't so sure about the appeal of his main narration over there. Don't know. Eventually, towards the end of the run of the strip here, Garrett Price really went wild and loose, and his main protagonists suddenly found themselves in a cave with a caveman and flying plants, and even here dinosaurs. But still and again, the series White Boy is what makes this collection here really outstanding and very special. I mean, I've read a lot of comics, as you know, but this is for sure one of the most remarkable ones in my collection. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.